I know a lot of bad things happened in this episode, but I don't want it to be overshadowed by the fact that Jon Snow didn't even say goodbye to Ghost. He could die in the next episode, and I don't care anymore, because he is not a responsible pet owner. Crossy Posse Game of Thrones Nation, welcome back to another episode of Game of Toms. I'm your host, Tom Grossi, and today we are breaking down Game of Thrones Season 8, Episode 4. And now we only got 2 episodes of Thrones left, and I'm not going to lie, I thought tonight was going to be a filler episode, considering that, obviously we had the long night last week. We had a big action episode, and I figured, all right, this is going to be the calm before the storm, before there's the siege on King's Landing, which will occur next week. And, well, there was a little bit of that. There was a little bit of recouping, a little bit of burning the dead, but things picked up in a hurry and set the stage for the end game, if you will. But to kind of go through this entire episode, which I thought was a good episode, first scene, Jorah finally getting some action. Finally, Dany kissing him on the head. I was expecting him to wake up and be like, ha, I was alive the entire time, and you kissed me. But that unfortunately didn't happen. Also, I thought it was a nice touch that Sansa buried the Stark emblem with Theon, showing that he was indeed a Stark. Got his family. We got lots of funeral pyres lit up like it was a Jedi funeral. And by the way, those fumes had to have smelled god-awful. And the number one thing I thought of is as they were packing people into the dining hall was the problem that Sansa brought up in episode 1 of like, oh man, who's going to feed all these people? Problem solved. And we got Gendry becoming unbastardized to become a lord, which was cool. And of course, he ran over to Arya and was like, hey girl, I know you just killed the Night King and all, but how about we hook up? And she was like, no. But she wasn't the only one to be rejecting people that night. I also love that little interaction that they had between Gendry and the Hound was basically like dad on prom night and was just like, I don't approve. But I also think that every single human being needs a hype man like Tormund. Like, I just want to be his friend. And of course, one of the biggest losses this evening was the fact that Tormund and Brienne are no more. But then again, Jaime went back to King's Landing, and as soon as he rode off on the horse, I just imagine Tormund coming in. Hey, big woman. But during that dining hall scene, you saw Daenerys, like, there was, like, the ominous music starting to play, or as my wife would call it, the murder music, and she started seeing, like, all the connections that people were having, and towards Jon and Tyrion and Jaime were colluding, and you saw the Mad Queen gears starting to turn, and Varys was like, oh no, if he had balls, they would be up in his chest at that point. Also, the Hound only needing one thing to be happy. We all know what that is. Get your sirens out because Clegane Bowl is gonna happen, folks. But on top of all of that, you have Gendry getting rejected, Tormund getting rejected. Somebody didn't get rejected, and that is finally Brienne and Jaime doing the nasty, how the babies are made, like Sam was telling Jon about Gilly, because, librarians are into some freaky stuff. But Jaime, this is a big thing for Jaime, right? Jaime has never really been with another woman besides Cersei. Cersei has cheated on him numerous times, but Jaime never has. And he was with a woman that loves him, and he loves her back. But at the very end realized that, oh wait, I'm an awful person. I push children out of window. I strangle my own family members to death. I need to essentially go die with Cersei. Obviously, there's the big theory from the books and also kind of alluded to in the show that Jaime's going to be the one that kills Cersei, but it looks like he's at least going to be the one that dies with her because she ain't planning on coming back, which also, it seems like the interaction between the Hound and Arya, both of them see this as a one-way trip. We also got some slight aunt and nephew action between Jon Snow and, of course, Daenerys Targaryen, or should I say Aegon Targaryen for Jon. But then, the whole knowingly incest thing was problematic, and also Dany was like, oh wait, yeah, you can never tell anybody, and then what does Jon do? Goes and tells everybody, and then that spreads to everybody, and now we have a big old problem on our hands in Westeros. Now, there was a because obviously it's been teased for the past few episodes about Dany making this turn, right? Making a heel turn, going to the Mad Queen, and I feel like she's gone full Mad Queen. And you had Varys, you had Tyrion, who are like, hey, like Cersei's bringing in all of these civilians into King's Landing, like you're gonna kill them all, starve her out so the people turn on her, or just do anything to attempt not to kill those people. And that went right out the window by the end of the episode, basically saying, hey, like, let's have patience. And Dany's like, nah, I ain't got none of that. I ain't a doctor. Also, we had Bronn come and finally meet up with Tyrion and Jaime. Convenient of him to miss the entire army of the dead. And I was nervous as hell that crossbow was going to go off and accidentally kill Jaime, but they both lived to see another day. And so Bronn basically being promised Highgarden after all is said and done, but who knows if either of the Lannister boys will be alive. Who knows if any Lannister will be alive at the end of this season. Also, the biggest gripe I had with the entire episode, Tormund going back north, that's fine, right? Jon leaving, that's fine. Ghost just went through a war. You haven't seen him in how many seasons, because he's always just like off the side. Jon has never cared about Ghost. He's never been a good puppy owner. Look how he handled him back in season 1, and he just left him. He's like, hey, Tormund, take care of my dog, bro. I'm gonna go down south. What? Who does that? And Tormund's like, I guess. Sure. Didn't even say goodbye. Just looked at Ghost like, cool, and left. Puppy's waiting for him. I got like Futurama PTSD. The puppy waiting for him. And guess what? He's not coming back. So hopefully Tormund can take care of him. And of course you have the Euron Greyjoy ambush, which they killed Rhaegal. They were like, oh, look, he's getting better. After I thought he died last week, he was fine this week until Euron shot him. And so that was a big surprise. And of course the kidnapping of Missandei, and that just set off a whole bunch of crap in motion. More importantly, Varys and Tyrion flat out talking treason, because apparently echoes aren't a thing in those long, stony, dark corridors. And they just blatantly were talking about, hey, like, Dany might not be the best thing. And Tyrion's trying to, like, convince himself and Varys, like, oh, no, she's going to be fine. And Varys like, no, I'm fighting for the realm. Like, I'm fighting for everybody. And she cray. Like, she's going to kill people just like her dad. And you can see the struggle, right, between what Tyrion, like, is supposed to do, and he pledged his allegiance and loyalty just like Jon did to Daenerys, and now he's like, I don't know, there's some conflict there. And so, I mean, they're setting something up, and I don't think I like where this is potentially going. I think she's going to be a complete monster next week, as the last scene of the episode indicated. There was also the fact that Cersei is pretending that the baby that is inside her is not Jaime's, it's actually Euron's, which is power move, by the way, because then Euron's basically going to do absolutely everything for Cersei. And so she's got him right where she wants him. And that relates back to earlier episodes where she basically was telling Sansa, like, the best weapon you have is, like, in between the legs. And I'm just like, whoa, okay, #feminism. And then finally that last scene where you had Tyrion and Qyburn talking, both hands of the queen, trying to work something out, which it's not going to. Missandei standing there on the wall, and you're just like, yeah, she's gonna die. It's gonna be terrible. But the last words her saying is Dracarys, basically like, burn all of these people to the ground. And you saw Daenerys' face. She is definitely going to burn all those people to the ground. The last words of her father saying, burn them all, burn them all. You're gonna see that in action next week when Daenerys quite literally burns them all. And so it really is going to leave the question, if Daenerys winds up surviving next week and, like, Cersei's defeated, it's going to obviously come at a great cost, in which she is probably going to kill a lot of civilians, and a lot of people are theorizing of her becoming the Mad Queen. I feel like we've got there with the death of 2 of her children now, and also, like, one of her loyal advisors, Missandei, who basically is, like, the only person she had left that reminded her of where she had come from, because Tyrion is basically a stranger to her, so is Varys. Jorah died last week, and so now she really doesn't have much left or anybody that she can trust or talk to besides, like, Grey Worm, who's leading her army. And so I feel like you're going to have a lot of casualties, and then after all the rubble and ashes is settled and done with, there's going to be a lot of cleaning up to do, both literally in bodies and metaphorically, and like, who the hell is going to rule Westeros? Because Dany ain't gonna have Jon do it, because they're not gonna get along, which I feel like we've also, like, taken a hard left, because we, like, some of this stuff, like, wasn't new. Obviously Daenerys finding out that Jon is related to her and is, like, the heir to the throne, that kind of throws a wrench into a bunch of things. But I feel like they've like kind of degressed her character a lot this season, in which like there were like glimpses of a potentially mad queen coming out, but like they built her up of like being like the mother, oh my god, like she's the mother of dragons, but like that whole episode is the breaker of chains and like people bowing down to her. And now they're just like, oh no, she's going to go crazy now. And so it's going to be interesting to see what the perception of the people of Westeros are for Dany if she winds up coming out on top, and how they're going to settle it if Jon is still alive as well. But I'm very curious to know your thoughts. We got obviously the battle for King's Landing next week, and then one more episode to wrap this entire thing up. Let me know what you thought about this episode. I thought this was a really solid episode. I think this was like a 9-3. The only thing that's not making it higher for me is, again, it seems like we've gone off a cliff with Dany a little bit, and I feel like her character, while I could see it making sense of like her breaking, it's just, it feels like it's a little bit of a sharp turn. But that's just my opinion. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. You can always find me at TomGrossiComedy.com or at TomGrossiComedy on all the social media say down below. And we'll be back with Game of Toms next Sunday. But thank you so much for watching. I am Tom Grossi. And as always, take care of your dogs, unlike Jon Snow.